Hi all, Dr. Levan here to continue our discussion with external selection. But before we do that, let's go ahead and do a bit of review here as we look at our pictorial syllabus. As you recall, first and foremost, we want to start off knowing the organization's goals and objectives and making sure that we align to those as an HR unit and in particular as a staffing unit. We want to develop our own staffing strategy. We had those 13 staffing decisions. Are we going to staff using internal resources or external resources? Do we want to promote primarily from within? What percentage of external sources do we want to go to? We want to make sure that we're legally compliant. We want to do a good job at planning and forecasting, making sure that we have just the right number of people that we need for these open spots. We're certainly not going to be reactionary. We're going to do a job analysis and make sure that we understand the competencies that are needed for the organization. And then we're going to source folks. We're going to source folks either externally or internally. And we're going to use either a targeted approach or a more open approach to that. And then we move into this selection criteria where we actually have candidates that we have their resumes, we have their applications. We're going to decide what type of metrics that we're going to use to evaluate these individuals. We talked about the importance of validity and reliability and the importance of just having metrics first of all and overall, so we're not relying on this gut instinct, which is highly flawed, highly flawed. If you recall, a SHRM study said that 63% of hiring decisions are made in just over 4 minutes. Again, we've got to turn to data on this. Again, then last week we talked about external recruiting. We reviewed the staffing process overall, looked at resumes and job applications and phone screens, employment tests, interviews, and as well as background checks. We're going to get a little more into that today. So let's go ahead and jump right into our topics for the day and objectives for today, and you'll see those before you for Chapter 9. So let's go ahead and get into the first one, and we're going to be answering this question of what are the differences between initial, substantive, and contingent selection. So we briefly talked about that last time. Let's just look at it once again. So we have all of our applicants. Think in your mind, let's just say that we're using a website like monster.com. So we put out our job posting there, and we're going to get hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes there. So we want to do some sort of initial screen, fast and easy, probably wired right into the computer programming to weed out folks who don't have the right education background, or they don't have the right type of experience, or they don't have the right type of certifications. We're going to do that. We're going to do that in a low-cost method to get us down to a more finite pool of candidates. And then we're going to up the game a little bit, up the expense with our metrics a little bit, with our selection tools, and we'll do the phone screen perhaps and actually talk to some of these folks. We'll take a closer look at their resume. We'll get into some of these employment tests that we'll talk about a little bit. And then from that, we'll narrow this down to a group of finalists. This is the time where, and these are the people that you want to put in front of your hiring managers at that point. And this is where you can show your organization that you're doing a good job. These finalists are qualified, highly qualified people. If you do a really good job, your managers, your leaders are struggling to say, do I want this person or do I want that person? And this is where we use these discretionary assessment methods. This is trying to get the right feel for a candidate on how they're going to fit our culture and how well they'll be as a long-term employee for our organization. We'll make some offers at that point, and then we'll do these contingent types of assessments. And that's where your employment is contingent upon passing a medical test, passing a drug test, passing a criminal background test, passing financial test, to look at your finances to make sure that you're not in debt. So hopefully it's clear now you understand the differences between these types of assessment methods.